Hello, beautiful humans. It's Sarah. One of the questions that you guys ask me is what books have been really instrumental for me in my path and along my transformative journey. So I thought that today I would share with you not one, not two, but 3 books that have been really impactful in my life over the last few years for a couple of different reasons. Totally screwing that up. Understand that just because these books have been meaningful to me, it does not necessarily mean that they're going to be meaningful or comfortable for you. So I'm just going to share from my perspective, and I'm going to trust that you can make a judgment call on your own behalf and in your interest and decide if you want to read them or not. Also, I'm not sponsored by any of these books in any way, shape, or form, although I would be happy to connect with all of the people who wrote them. So these are the 3 books that I'm going to be telling you guys about today. This is When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodrun. This is A Course in Weight Loss by Marianne Williamson. And this is called The Truth by Strauss. So let me just spend a few minutes on each of these. This right here is probably the single most impactful book that I read in the last few years of my life. I read this book for the first time at a friend's suggestion in 2017 when I was really going through a period where I felt like shit was falling apart and I was trying so hard to fight against it and hold on. Somebody said you should read this book, and I'm like, nah, there's no way that that's going to make any difference. And honestly, this book to me is like the equivalent of the most amazing, delicious ice cream you've ever had. You just get this bowl and you take a little spoon and you just eat it so slowly because every bite is delicious. That is how I feel about this book. Pema Chodrun is a really well-known American Buddhist nun, a spiritual teacher. I think she's probably got to be in her 80s now. I've never had the pleasure of hearing her live. I wish that someday I would be able to. But the entire premise of this book is about how we as human beings are basically wired to do everything that we can to avoid feeling pain. Like you think about little kids and like when they touch hot stuff, we immediately like are taught to recoil. But how growth in life comes not from avoiding pain, but to lean into it, to lean into the sharp places, to lean into the painful stuff that scares us. That is where the beautiful growth and the beautiful opportunity for change can happen. And this book is wonderful because it teaches us how to readjust our narrative around things that scare us and how to readjust our narrative around fear so that pain no longer freaks us out and that we can start to look at the things that hurt us as being massive teachers. Let me see if I can find something good. To stay with that shakiness, to stay with a broken heart, with a rumbling stomach, with the feeling of hopelessness, and wanting to get revenge. That is the path of true awakening. Sticking with that uncertainty, getting the knack of relaxing in the midst of chaos, learning not to panic, that is the spiritual path. That's literally like on page 11. I literally just opened up a book. I just opened it up, and I just started. Oh, I fucking love this quote. Oh my God, I love this quote. I put this quote on a board at my last Body Love workshop, which will be Life Love for this year. This is one of my favorite quotes of all time, no joke. Okay. Only to the extent that we expose ourselves over and over to annihilation can that which is indestructible be found in us. Think about that one. Only to the extent that we expose ourselves over and over to annihilation can that which is indestructible be found in us. That's on page 8. Okay, so literally this book is like a must-have. Get it, you'll love it. Don't feel the need to read it all at once. It's just, this one forever. Yeah, Titanic, forever. Okay, so this next book here is not going to be a book for everyone. It is A Course in Weight Loss by Marianne Williamson. The light is super bright. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, if you're having a gut reaction and you're like, chill. And I want you to soften up and not be freaked out for a moment because I want you to hear me. This book is by Marianne Williamson. She is one of the leading spiritual teachers of our age. I don't know, you can't see it up there, but she is the leading teacher of A Course in Miracles. She's a lovely human being and an amazing teacher. Anyhow, this book, she calls 21 Spiritual Lessons for Surrendering Your Weight Forever. Now, I don't know how I came across this book. I came across this book really early on in my transformational journey when I was starting to do some research on A Course of Miracles because I wanted to read the book, but like I didn't want to read the whole thing. I wanted like, where are the cliff notes? And I found this. And this book changed my life. This book, swear to God, like no joke, this book is the first time that I ever contemplated that my weight was a reflection of emotional pain. Now I gotta pick it up. Okay, seriously, let me get comfortable again. Yeah, this book, literally, this book was the first time in my entire adult life at like 36 years old that I ever thought about why I was heavy. And it changed my entire narrative around what it would mean to try and not be as heavy as I was. It took my journey from being thinking about a scale to thinking about how I could genuinely have more love in my life, how I could genuinely be happier, how I could heal what was hurting within me, and then being open to see how that would impact my relationship to my body and food. This book changed my life. Again, not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. Listen, I understand that many of you may have a challenge when you read this book because Marianne Williamson does use diet culture language in this book. This is one of those situations that I trust and entrust that you can advocate for yourself. Trust that this is written by a woman who grew up in a different time with a different narrative to food. Trust that this is written by a woman who was never 3 or 200 or 300 or 400 pounds. This is a woman who had maybe 30, 40 pounds to lose, 20 pounds to lose. So it comes from a much different personal place. All that being said, there are concepts in this book that literally changed how I thought about the weight that I carried. And this was, again, the first time that I was ever really willing to see that how I was eating was a reflection of something deeper that was hurting me. And if I wanted to change the way I ate, then it wasn't about surface level changing the way I ate. It was about understanding what was hurting and finding something different to do and healing something so that I could rewire myself for new behaviors or new patterns or new ways of handling things. So for me, for example, the big thing was that I never really saw how much healing and pain I had in relation to my personal life, my relationship with men, my dad, my dysfunctional personal relationships with men, and therefore how that was really impacting my fear and my pain, and in turn how I was using food to address all that stuff. So really impactful book. I actually have 2 copies of this book. One is clean and the other one is all marked up. I would read to you, but this is not the marked up one. So let's just go to the next book, okay? All right. This book right here is probably going to be the most controversial for you guys of all 3 of these books. I will start by saying that this book is not for everyone. This book is called The Truth, and it is written by Neil Strauss, who is a well-known journalist. I genuinely love his work. He used to write, I believe it was for Rolling Stone. He was the author of that Motley Crue book, The Dirt. That was really badass. He's really well known, and now he focuses a lot on personal growth stuff, and he mostly works with men. But I find a tremendous amount of relevance in what he talks about. So this book is called The Truth, an eye-opening odyssey through love addiction, sex addiction, and extraordinary relationships. So if love addiction, sex addiction, eye-opening odyssey, and extraordinary relationships freaks you out, and you are a super monogamous, one man, one woman traditionalist, do not read this book. This book is not for you. This book was deeply impactful to me because it's a biography, and it's a memoir of how this man looked at the trauma in his familial upbringing with his mom, with his dad, with his family, and how that impacted his personal relationships. But even more specifically, how that impacted his sexual impulses as a partner, in his desire for non-traditional relationships. And for those of you who don't know what I mean mom and dad earmuffs. I mean polyamory, I mean ethical non-monogamy, I mean swinging, I mean all that kind of stuff. So it talked a lot about how this guy, it was from his personal perspective, was never able to stay faithful. And when he finally was in a relationship with a woman that he really loved, how did his inability to stay not faithful, and how did his deep unquenchable desire for more break the relationship up? And how did that make him realize that he had stuff to look at? And then how did he deconstruct his patterns, his ingrained beliefs? How did he deconstruct the relationship with his mom and all of his different relationships to look at and understand why he experienced sex addiction and love addiction, and how that drove him towards a desire for non-traditional situations because he was unable to deal with other stuff. This book was deeply impactful to me. I consider myself to be a non-traditional person. I'm a single woman right now, and this is not trying to be me talking about my personal life, but I deeply understand a lot of what is discussed in this book. Certainly what it means to be a love addict, and what that means to, as a love addict, be someone who is attracted to someone who pushes love away, and what that pattern means, and how you can recognize it. and how we set ourselves up for suffering. I mean, fuck. This book was fucking great. I started to like circle a whole bunch of shit, and then I just figured at some point in time I would probably read it again and again and again. But yeah, this book was amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I read this book over my birthday, so I don't think I took a pen to it, but it was really good. Okay, so that being said, just a recap, these are the 3 books that I've told you about today. When Things Fall Apart. Okay, so just a quick recap. These are the 3 books that I have told you about today. 1, When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodrun. It is heart advice for difficult times. If you go on Amazon, there's a whole bunch of Pema Chodrun books. Every one of them that I have read has been amazing. For all intents and purposes, this is the one I'm starting you with right now. Second book, Marianne Williamson's A Course of Weight Loss. You guys understood what I was expressing to you. There are 21 exercises that you can do in this book that will help you to have a more spiritual relationship with your weight loss. I gotta be honest, some of these exercises don't freaking work for me at all. A couple of them were really impactful to me. Everything I share, take it with a grain of salt. Some of this I was like, no fucking way. Some of this was brilliant. I'm just simply saying that this book caused me to think about things. This book caused me to think about things, and that's what transformation is about. Transformation is about being able to critically think on behalf of yourself. Take in information, say, how does this apply to me? And then like chew it up and digest it. So this book, and then The Truth by Neil Strauss. Definitely another unique read. Caused me to think a lot about the idea of love addiction and how I was perpetuating the same cycles in my personal relationships again and again and again. So I don't have any affiliateship for any of these. Buy them, give them to people you love. Yeah, okay, so I'll come back with more soon. Thank you guys, and have a good one. Bye. Oh, also, one thing. If you like this video, don't forget to hit subscribe. Look, as I do that and my arm shakes. Don't forget to hit subscribe. I'm going to try and post and share more. So if you want to get new videos from me when they go up, don't forget to hit subscribe so that you can catch me later. Okay, bye guys.